Hello guys, welcome to SAVIOUR Watersports. Today we're going to be doing a video on how to repair a ding in a surfboard. So this is a polyurethane traditional surfboard and we're going to be using our SAVIOUR Polyester Repair Kits. So I want to show you what's inside of our repair kits. Okay, so our repair kits are eco-conscious, so everything that is in here is pretty much reusable. So we've got the polyester resin in this white clear container. We have the catalyst, which is the hardener, in the black container. In the metal small tin is the glass bubbles. You've got some mixing cups here with reusable eco-friendly latex gloves. We've got 6 ounce cloth there. You've got different grades of sandpaper. You have a squeegee, which is plastic but reusable if you look after it. A nice stirring stick, which is good. And that's the whole kit that it comes with. You will need masking tape also for this repair. And I know that throughout this video I'm not wearing all the PPE which is recommended, but I recommend that you do wear PPE. So repairing a surfboard, there's quite a few stages, so let's move into the first stage. So the first stage is preparing the area for a filler coat. Now the filler coat is going to fill any holes that we have, so we need to key the area up first. Also, if you've got any loose shards of fiberglass or anything else in there, you can remove them with a Stanley blade. Obviously I recommend an actual knife and not a blade. So let's get cracking with the sanding bit, okay? So basically you are keying up the area ready for the filler coat, okay? So again, making sure there's no loose shards of fiberglass or any cracks or any stress cracks. And if you do see any, just sand them out. So basically just like this little bit here. I see a little bit of glass, which I thought might cause problems later because it was just a bit loose. So I decided to sand him off. So mask up the area around your repair where you are going to be doing the filler coat, just so your filler coat doesn't go all over the board and make a mess. So the next stage now is to make some paste. I'm using our resin, which obviously looks blue now, but when it cures it is clear. Mix it up, it's between a 2 and 10% ratio. If you're not sure on mixing resin, we have done a video, so make sure you watch that first. Once you've got your resin, you add your glass bubbles which come in the kit. Glass bubbles basically make it into a paste. So once you've got a paste and you're happy with the consistency should be a little bit like this, you start putting it into your ding. Now you've got to make sure that when you're putting the putty into the ding, you're pushing it down so it is completely filled, and then leave a little film on top. Right, so we dug out any loose glass that was there, we sanded it back so it's nice and keyed up, we mixed our resin up with the right ratio of catalyst, added some glass bubbles which then created the resin white. I know it looks slightly green but it will go whiter as it cures. And then we squeegeed it in there. When I was squeegeing it in there, I was making sure that it was right down to the bottom, okay? So you might have noticed I went backwards and forwards a few times and then kind of left it nice and level on the top. Plenty on there. You don't want to have a low spot. If anything, you want it a bit higher, okay? So we've got to sand this back in a bit. So we're going to let that dry for a couple of hours and then we're going to come back to it, give it a sand and then add some glass. So our filler coat has now completely cured, it's rock hard, and now we've got the joy of sanding that back. So we try and keep this sanding stage quite flat on a board like this. If the board has got lots of dimples and lots of low spots, sometimes you've got to use your finger, but this is quite flat, so you can actually use a sanding block. So it's just a wooden block which I made myself, and with the 80 grit. So with the 80 grit, you just want to sand it nice and level all over the whole section without going too wide, otherwise you're going to scratch the board. Now the key is here to keep sanding until you have knocked back or sanded back the masking tape around the area, or you feel as though you're getting there. So now you can see that the tape is starting to come off, and around this area here is where you need to concentrate on now. So you're just trying to make it as flat as possible using your block. You can get rid of the tape now if you feel as though you're nearly there. And you can give it a bit more of a sand until you're completely satisfied that it's flat. Now remember, as you're sanding this, you do want to knock off the existing area around the repair. So you see I'm sanding around it, so about an inch or so all the way around the repair. You also want to be sanding the hot coat off, which is going to let the fiberglass stage, which is the next stage, sit nicely into that zone. But this is an absolute critical part of the repair. So there's a fine line between sanding, what I'm doing now, and then sanding too far. You definitely don't want to sand too far, so you're starting to sand the existing fiberglass off around the ding. If you do that, it's all going to go a bit soft, and your ding will just get bigger. Once you're pretty happy with it, it's flat, just give it a little bit more of a sand around it. You can use your fingernail, and we're creating the pit zone ready for the glass. So you might often hear me talking about a pit zone, and the pit zone is basically creating a low spot ready for your next stage, which is the glass. Right, so pretty happy with it now. Start cleaning it off, get the old dust away, make sure it's clean, tidy, and start masking up around the zone which you've created for the pit. So the inside bit is the pit that I'm on about. So that will basically be the place where the fiberglass layer sits inside. So the next stage now is to fiberglass the repair area. You mix up your resin between a 2 and 10% ratio like we did earlier. We don't need much at this stage. So in our kits, we supply 6-ounce cloth. Okay, so on our repair today, we're going to be doing 2 layers of 6-ounce cloth. So when you cut in your 2 layers, you cut one layer, which is going to be slightly bigger than your area. So it's going to overlap your masking tape, and then a slightly smaller piece, which is going to sit inside your masking tape. So let's get going with the fiberglassing part. So I always like to wet the surfboard first with the resin. So pour a bit out, spread it around, and then add your first layer of cloth. So saturating it so there's no white areas left, and then place your second piece on top and do exact same thing. So you don't want too much resin on there at this stage, but you also do want to saturate it so there's no white sections left. If the resin isn't wet out or saturated enough in the resin, it will not cure properly and will not work properly. So make sure this stage is done properly and it's completely saturated in resin and no white patches left. So the key bit there was we sanded back the filler coat with the bubbles in, flush with the board with an 80 grit. I made sure that I sanded around about 10-15 mil outside of the actual filler. So I took the hot coat off to get back to the glass, about 10-15 mil around the outside of the repair, on purpose, just so when I pop my glass on and put the resin on like I just did, the actual glass is going to sit lower than the existing board. So when that cures later on, probably be the morning now, I'll probably sand that back, and that should then be flush with the board. Alright, so that's key. So I call it pitting it. So you pit it down a little bit so you've got room for the glass to sit on top. So then when you sand that back, it's flush. If you don't do that, you'll end up just in a minute, or when that's gone dry, you'll end up just sanding the glass back, and it's pointless putting glass on. I put 2 layers of 6-ounce on then. You know, by the time I've sanded this one off in a bit, you probably end up with 1 layer of 6 ounces, just to make sure there's no low points. All right, so that's it for now. We'll come back to this in the morning, sand that back, and then put a hot coat on, let that dry, sand that, and then we're done. All right, so it's a few procedures in board repairs like this. It's patience, and let it cure. Don't try and rush it or try and do it too soon to make the most solid repair. Alright, so let's get back to this in the morning. Right, so back in the morning now, the glass has gone rock hard, so it's time to sand it down. So we're going to grab the 80 grit and the block back and start sanding and sanding. I might use my fingers on a bit as well without the block, and the aim is to sand the glass back so it's flush with the glass. So keep sanding until you start sanding through the tape, and then that obviously is nearly low enough and level with the board. Alright, so I'm going to zoom you in a bit. So as you can see, sanding with a block with the 80 grit, I'm sanding it in all directions, so one way then the other, one way and then the other, and that's kind of how you get it flat. And after quite a bit of sanding, you get back to kind of this zone here. So in a minute, you'll see that the masking tape around the repair is starting to peel up, and that's exactly where you're aiming for. So the masking tape obviously is slightly higher than the existing board, so keep going, keep sanding, and when you start to get your tape off like this, start to concentrate on the edges to get that ridge off. You can see now that the repair's nearly flush, and I'm working on the edges, trying to get it nice and flat. But remember guys, don't sand too hard, and otherwise the area outside of your repair will go soft. So be very careful not to sand too much around the area where you're actually not doing a repair. So again, now mask it up, and this is going to be the final stage. So mask it up around the outside of your repair, and that's to be ready for your hot coat, which is your last layered coat. This is a stage now where everything's got to be super clean. So give it all a hoover, get rid of any old dust, and we don't want any dust falling in this section. So mix up your resin one more time, only a little bit, the same ratio as before, between 2 and 10%. Mix it around the cup and the bottom of the cup as usual, making sure it's all mixed up very well. So usually about 30 seconds and your mixture is mixed properly. And I'm just going to drop a bit on the repair now, nice and smooth, all over it, and grab your squeegee that the repair kit comes with, making sure the edge is nice and clean, with no bits and bobs in there like that. So I've got a bit of dust in there, so I'm just getting that bit out. And the smoother you can do this bit, the better. Okay, but you see that my squeegee is staying on the side of the masking tape. So if you stay on the masking tape, you're going to leave a nice millimetre or two of clear coat on top. And like I said, smoother the better. I'm just looking at, around it just to make sure that it is smooth. And here we are. This is that stage. This is the hot coat done. So I've moved the board outside now. It's a nice sunny day, so why not? So the next stage is to sand this hot coat off. So I'd left the hot coat overnight, and so it's the next morning now. I'm going to use the 320 sandpaper that the kit comes with, and a flat block, and I'm going to use a bit of water with this and use it as a wet and dry. So sometimes just adding a bit of water just helps the sandpaper not get clogged up, and makes sanding just a whole lot easier. So this takes a bit of time, but try and keep it flat at all times, and you'll soon be there. So grab yourself some tissue, clean it all off, have a look, have a feel, touch it. If it feels flat, it usually is. And what you're aiming for here is to sanding it flush without sanding back to your glass. So We've done a glass coat. That was the last hot coat, and the idea of it is to protect the glass. So glass on its own can be porous, so the hot coat, which we just added on, is a nice sealing coat essentially. So it seems like I'm pretty happy with this. There you go. GoPro shadows in the way a little bit. Nice, clean, fresh repair. So there we go, this is my sexy model part, just showing off the board. I'm not really sure why, but basically the board is ready to go, ready to hit the water, nice and sealed up, nice and strong repair, and this is all done with our SAVIOUR Repair Kits, which is the Polyester Repair Kit. That's it pretty much, guys. So thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, or if you want to watch any more videos in the future, make sure you subscribe to our channel, because we've got plenty more videos coming up in the future. So we'll see you in the water, guys.